Hi, good morning. Simon Ward from the Job Search Accelerator program. I'm really sorry that we're 2 or 3 minutes late. This is the first time I've been using this technology. We're using a technology called YardStream or StreamYard. First time I've used it, and I think for the last 2 or 3 minutes I thought I was broadcasting to you guys, but in fact I hadn't turned the broadcast on. So there's some clear, authentic transparency to start with. My name is Simon Ward. For those of you who don't know me, haven't yet joined the Job Search Accelerator program, I have been in recruitment my whole life. My mum, my dad, my brother, my sister, all recruiters. And for the last 15 years, I have been particularly focused on working with candidates, either as an outplacement consultant or as a recruiter, with a focus on developing the skills of candidates, as opposed to developing the skills of candidates as an employee. And it was driven by the fact that I was very concerned that as I built direct hiring platforms in a lot of my clients when I was consulting, a lot of the candidates who were being attracted into those pipelines and those funnels as a direct candidate really didn't know how to run an effective job hunt, because they were doing it without the support of a recruitment consultant, often for the first times in their lives. So that's why we built I Got Hired fundamentally starting 5 or 6 years ago. But today's a special day. It's the very first live broadcast for both the Job Search Accelerator program, but also our Free for a Million initiative, which is targeted a slightly lofty ambition, but we think we're going to do it with the right support, a lofty ambition to be able to deliver focused, structured, personalized job hunting support to 1 million unemployed under 25-year-olds around the world. That's our target. But anyone is welcome. So if you are watching this on the Free for a Million, welcome. And I hope you come back for any one of the next 59 free sessions that we're going to run over the next 12 weeks. I think the key thing is just to be very clear about what we're going to achieve today, and some of the disclaimers I have to get up out front. In the next half an hour or so, together we're going to build a very simple, very practical framework that you can deploy and integrate it with your job hunt. So the framework for your mental health isn't just sitting over here and your job hunt's over here. The whole thing works together. And in the process planning and preparation stage, which you'll hear a lot about in Job Search Accelerator and I Got Hired, in that stage, we're actually going to look at how we prepare, what is the process, and how do we plan to put together this simple framework. I suppose today, more than at any other time, we at I Got Hired are concerned about the mental well-being and the mental health of candidates in today's market. Today's is tough, and it has the potential to become tougher. And I think people who are joining the jobs market now, and over the next month or so, I have a suspicion there will be a number of people joining the jobs market on both sides of the Atlantic. One of the key things that we want people to understand is that it's going to be tough. There is a proportion of job hunters in both those markets, in the US and in the UK, and in fact all over Europe, who are going to have setbacks, who are going to have frustrations, who are going to be, at times, it's tested as to whether their motivation and their commitment and their focus is going to survive, because it will be tough. And we want to build something together that enables new job hunters to integrate something right at the start of their job hunt, but also for people who are already into a job hunt, maybe experiencing some of those frustrations and irritations, and are becoming more and more concerned and stressed, to help them build something very quickly that they can then use just to keep themselves on a level, keep themselves motivated, keep themselves focused. There's the obvious coincidence, and it is a coincidence, and we're not sure if it's a good coincidence or not, but there's the obvious coincidence that we are running this session today, 2 days after World Mental Health Day. in many ways, that's great. There's a great focus on it. But that isn't why we're doing it. We're doing it because this is the first live coaching session for JSA and Free for a Million. And we can't think of anything more important than maintaining mental health over the coming months, because not only is it important at a personal, family, and professional level, it's also really important about how you conduct and drive your job hunt. The coincidence of World Mental Health Day may or may not be a good one. There's an awful lot of stuff out there, and a lot of it's been brilliant over the weekend. So there's the risk that our approach gets lost in this wave of support and information and coaching. But we think it's just important enough to be right at the start. And I think to be transparent, in the interest of transparency, I'm happy to be honest about the challenges I face. So maybe 10, 12 years ago, I was in a really dark, bad place. I picked out a tree that I could run my car into at speed on a corner somewhere between Dorking and Leatherhead in Surrey, and no one would ever have known. And there's so much, no one would ever have known that I had taken that action. No one would ever know that I had been depressed and having struggles with my mental health. And that says so much for the way I was handling that. I was keeping it completely internalized. My wife didn't know where I was in terms of my mental health. And I believed I'd get out of it one way or another. I would either look after it, or I'd not have to worry about looking after it. And so I do understand how these things can creep up. They really can creep up on you. So I'm very mindful in I Got Hired that we are aware of that intrinsic nature of the creep of stress. So I think the best thing probably is to move into that model. Let's look at how that model can work. And I mentioned earlier that we have a basis, a foundation in I Got Hired, which enables our job hunters to work at pace and with precision and purpose. But it all starts with understanding a process, whether that is an interview process, a broader recruitment process, or in this case, a process to put in place a framework to support and protect your mental health. So understand that process, then create a plan. So what do you want to do? And preferably document that plan. And then we need to look at how are we going to prepare to deploy that plan. So as we go through this the 5E model, we'll constantly talk about those 3 Ps of process, plan, and preparation. I think probably the best thing to do is if I share my screen, just to give you a break from my face and to just talk you through a very simple model. Now, I said we're going to have problems with technology. It doesn't seem to we want to sharing just at the moment, but we'll see. Hopefully that's going to work. Let's have a look. Yeah, so there we are. The starting point for protecting mental health is a simple awareness that you need to protect your mental health. And it isn't going to be something that happens without effort. It isn't going to be something that is sort of just natural. That is a dangerous view. So you have to engage with your mental health. It's important that we engage and that you engage with your mental health so that you are mindful of the needs of yourself, of your own mental well-being, and you put some effort in. And there is an old saying that knowing something is not the same as doing it. And in many ways, this is the most important E of the 5E model, because if we don't put effort into looking after our mental health, we will not look after our mental health. An awful lot of people that I've known, particularly in the recruitment industry, have understood the importance of taking care of themselves, but have done absolutely nothing about it. And I was one of those. So I'm not pointing fingers. I suppose an analogy would be, we all know that we need to look after our gums. We know that we need to look after our teeth. So we put in place a little plan which we prepared for, and we create a process to look after our teeth. So we go, right, okay, we're going to clean our teeth every morning and every evening. That's so that is our process. In the morning we clean our teeth, in the evenings we clean our teeth before we go to bed. The preparation is that we have a toothbrush, and we make sure that we have a supply of toothpaste. And we know that the process is to clean your teeth effectively. Now, I'm not a dentist, but I think from cleaning the teeth of my 5-year-old, it's a 2-minute concerted effort up by flossing, but you don't floss a 5-year-old. So that in that analogy, we have a process, we have a plan, and we've prepared to deliver on that. Now, if we are prepared to put time in like that, in such a structured way, to keep our teeth and gums well, why wouldn't we do it for our mental health? So Minu, who is the doctor that I've been working with to create this model, talked to me a lot about mindfulness. And that to some may sound a little fluffy, but it's not. It's just about being aware of it and engaging with an effort. So you put together a plan, you put together a process, you prepare to yourself to be able to deliver to that plan, and you put the effort in. And it fits well with the I Got Hired Prepare for Success module, because that is all about doing some basic things up front to enhance the activities and effort that comes a little bit later. So we're going to then look at, what are we going to put our effort into? So first of all, we talk about endeavor. So endeavor is about doing something, learning something, adding something to your life, an endeavor that takes a little effort, takes a little planning, but it is going to deliver significant value. Whether it is learning to play a musical instrument, learning a foreign language, learning to cook, which is something that I'm sure my wife would think I should do, or in fact, my wife, who was recently made redundant, almost subconsciously entered this endeavor by learning. She's teaching herself calligraphy. But the endeavor is really, really important, because it will give you that feeling of achievement, even if it's just that you can play Smoke on the Water, which any aspiring guitarist will know is the simplest, easiest thing to play in the world. But I can still remember feeling incredibly satisfied when I was able to play that little riff. So you have these small successes that have taken you away from your job hunt, taken you away from the stress. I absolutely guarantee you that if you choose to learn a language or a musical instrument, there's no way you're going to be thinking about your job hunt for long while you're desperately trying to sort out a certain note or a sentence, in my case in French or German, which I was particularly poor at. So add that endeavor to your job hunt and plan for it. When we are building our job hunting platform, and we commit to certain times of the day that we are going to work on our job hunt, and we have informed our friends and we have informed our family that this is the time that I am giving to my job hunt, you can also inform them, and you can also plan to give them the fact that you are giving time to yourself. Inform them that you have committed to yourself for this particular endeavor. And I am going to do this every evening, every other evening, because I want to learn how to cook the perfect omelette. That shows you some idea of where my culinary expertise is. That's really, really important. Look for something that can give you that sense of achievement outside your job hunt, but integrate it with your job hunting effort. The next area of effort is exercise. Everyone will tell you this is important, but in nearly every conversation, every podcast, every coaching session I have listened to, exercise is linked really quickly to the gym. And I have talked to a number of personal trainers. I've talked to a number of professional and semi-professional sports coaching staff about exactly this issue. And there seemed to be a consensus that came back that this kind of effort, when you're not planning to run the London Marathon, although a friend of mine just run a remarkable virtual London Marathon, because that would actually sit under Endeavour anyway, I think. But when it is about supporting your mental health through exercise, heart rate, it's about your heartbeat, it's about increasing your heartbeat. You don't have to get hot and sweaty and lift 100 kilos or run 10 miles. It doesn't have to be something that is scary and overly challenging. It just needs to raise your heart rate for 20 minutes a day. Now, that could be walking up and down the stairs. I'm very conscious of how space challenged some people may be and resource challenged some people may be. The Joe Wicks series during lockdown just showed us how easy it is to exercise, and how we all have. I think there's a book out about using your sofa as your key exercise tool. There are thousands of ways you can get your heart rate up for 20 minutes a day. And it could be, if you live in a block of flats and you're limited for space, get off the lift 5 floors early or 3 floors early or 2 or 1, whatever it is that you're capable of doing, and walk the last 2 or 3 flights of stairs rather than the lift. Go for a walk. And that walks can be just as effective and attractive and pleasant, whether you're in an urban environment or a country environment. But the most important thing, I think, with exercise is to be kind with yourself. So we hear a lot about being kind to ourselves, but I think it's particularly relevant to exercise. People who know me, my friends who know me, will have heard me say loads of times, I'm really good at giving up smoking because I've done it so many times. Obviously tongue in cheek, but sadly too many times it was cigarette in cheek as well. So I really struggled to give up smoking. I would do it very, very, very regularly. The time it worked was the time when I realized I could be kind to myself while I gave up smoking. So I could have a cigarette, and rather than that one cigarette going, oh, I've given up smoking, I've given up, I'm smoking again, I use that one cigarette as a trigger to make me focus on how many cigarettes had I not had since the last time I fell off the wagon. So even having a cigarette became a trigger to identify the achievement of not having smoked 125 cigarettes over the last period of time, whatever it was. And I found that after I'd had a cigarette and I'd thought about the cigarettes I hadn't had, it was easier to not smoke the next bunch. And slowly the number of cigarettes and the time I went without one grew and grew and grew. And it's been 9 years now. And I'm very comfortable with the way I did that. But it was on the back of a huge amount of failure. So with your exercise, do not allow the fact that you haven't exercised today or for 3 days become the reason to stop exercising. Just think about the number of either consistent days or the number of days that, along with your plan, you managed to walk, you managed to do the stairs, you managed to do the sit-ups, you did get to a gym. Focus on your successes. So just cut yourself some slack. Be kind to yourself. And realize that every exercise session, every time you get your heart rate up, has value in itself. So you can always add to that value tomorrow. And there will be days when you don't take exercise. And some of that may be outside your control because of an event or something's happening in life. And sometimes it can just be, I'll come up with an excuse because I just don't feel like it. So be kind to yourself. Recognize that all you've done is not take exercise for a day. You have not stopped exercising. And if anyone is smoking on this is a smoker and wants to give up smoking, that's the advice I would give you from a multiply failed give up a smokerer. So the final of the three things we're going to apply effort to is escape. So we need, all of us, when we are getting stressed, when there is the risk of stress, when there is the risk of our mental health beginning to deteriorate, just needs a break. We need to get away and do something. And we're doing our endeavor, we're doing our exercise. So we've got something that is challenging with endeavor, that is new and is going to give us a feeling of value and achievement. Exercise will give us a feeling of value and achievement, but will also help with our physical well-being, which has a major impact on our mental health. But with escape is just doing something that just doesn't really challenge. Now, at the end of that sentence, I was going to say it doesn't really matter, but one of the great escapes can just spend time with your children, if you have them, or your nephews and nieces, or your grandchildren, whoever it is. And that really does matter. So it's not that escape doesn't matter, it's that it doesn't challenge. So I was talking to my wife, and we're talking through this model. She's an incredibly talented talent management professional. So she's had input into this. We've had lots of discussions about this. And I said, right, okay, so what's your escape? And she said, friends. And I got that. We're practically socially distancing people outside our front door at the moment, because the number of coffees she's arranging and teas she's arranging with her friends in the village. So her escape is her friends. And then she said, no, I don't just mean my friends, I mean friends. So what's the difference? And then I suddenly realized that she has a period of most days when she plugs in Netflix, and Netflix is a great escape generally, plugs in Netflix, goes into Netflix and watches old recordings of friends. That is something she can watch. And since she told me, I've kind of watched her watching Friends, and you can almost see the stress of the day escaping as she giggles at Monica or compares me with Ross, which I always find gently offensive. But it doesn't matter. That stuff doesn't matter. It just gives you somewhere to go that isn't your job hunt, isn't the frustration of a process that has been cancelled halfway through. It isn't the frustration that is caused by not getting that interview you were convinced you were going to get. It just gives you a break. And that is, we're going back to that, cut yourself some slack and plan it. So don't let it be lucky that you did whatever your escape is. If your escape is watching, this is how off the pace and how uncool I am, I've just completed watching Breaking Bad. Now, that was a great escape for me because it took some concentration to work out what was going on and who was doing what and trying to predict what was going to happen next. But it really worked. But I had to sort of plumb it into my day. So plumb in endeavor into your day, or every other day, or however that works in your life. Plumb in exercising and plumb in an escape method, and then engage. This came out of the work that I did with Minu, and it was probably more important than anything else. And this is probably where the phrase mindfulness is most important, and engagement, being in a job hunt, being under the constraints of COVID, engagement is one of the things that could potentially get lost. Certainly in terms of engaging with your colleagues, it was easy in the old world. And when we were employed, we went into work and we had a cup of tea, or we had our lunch, or we'd sit around the proverbial water cooler, and we would engage with a group of people who had a common interest and had some commonality because we worked together. And that may well have been taken away from you, taken out of your life. That might not be an option anymore. So we need to mindfully engage. Now, in terms of Endeavour, Exercise, and Escape, they can all be engagement platforms. You can learn to play guitar with a mate. You can go for a walk with a friend. You can share a Netflix series with a friend or a member of the family. You can engage with your children. But most of all, you have to engage with your mental health. And that was something I hadn't thought about until I spoke to Minu, that you need to be aware of it. You need to be engaged with it. So that is so key. It goes back to that setting the foundation, the effort, that you are going to engage with your mental health. You're going to evaluate your mental health. You're going to understand where you are on a spectrum in terms of your mental health. How's it going? Are you more stressed this week than last week? What can you do about it? But make a real effort to engage with family and friends. One of the early stage symptoms of stress and depression is disengagement. You stop talking to people. You stop making the phone calls. When someone rings you, the phone calls are much shorter and more cursory, and they don't really open up. So ensure that you are in that place where you are engaging. The one thing I say you probably don't need to engage with maybe quite as much as many of us do, and it is quite important to be aware of the threat of social media. Yes, it's a fantastic tool, and it can be a great engagement if it is an engagement platform, if it's managed well. But there are areas of social media that, if you are at the start of what could be a very dangerous spiral going downhill, that you begin to see everyone else's profile, everyone else's Facebook posts, timeline, etc., as being representative of the perfect life you no longer have. And we have to look at social media through the lens of maybe that's not how it is. I see very few, and I'm always impressed when I do, but I see people who will identify on Facebook or Twitter or anywhere else, in fact, that things aren't perfect. You don't get many people, even in the old world pre-COVID, you didn't used to get a load of people coming back from holiday and plastering all over Facebook that it was a disaster, the weather was terrible and the hotel was bad. They'd find the 3 pictures that make us all jealous and they put those up. TripAdvisors for the negative stuff, I guess. So just look at other people's social media lives through the lens of, it may not be quite as perfect as it's presented, and never compare. Try not to compare your circumstances with other people's. Your circumstances are yours. They are your own circumstances. So that's probably, they're the 5 E's. So commit to some effort. Apply that effort to Endeavour, Exercise, Escape, and then engage with your endeavor, engage with your exercise, engage with your escape, and make a real effort to be mindful of engaging with the outside world. And the outside world might even include people in your home, because if stress does begin to sort of begin to bite, you will almost by definition become more insular. It's I mean, certainly in my case and in everything I've read, that seems to be fairly clear. As we begin to go through our job hunt, particularly if we're going into our job hunt having come out of a redundancy process, so we've lost control of our lives, someone has taken away a very large piece of our life and told us that we are no longer employed, and however much we understand that it's COVID, it's remarkable commercial circumstances, there's a real personal aspect to that. It's not just financial, it's just not just commercial, it's not just career, it's personal. And however many people have been made redundant at the same time, however large that cohort is, there will be a time, in all likelihood, and it's usually in the dark hours of the night, when you wake up and think, they didn't want me, I wasn't good enough, they didn't like me, this was personal. It was not. Redundancy by its very nature cannot, will not, should not, and is never personal. The people who make it personal are those who it is focused on, is the people who are made redundant. And you can control that, and you can look at the reasons that you are given through a process, and you can come out of it, yeah, absolutely, in an emotional turmoil. I know that happens. You can come out of it scared. I think on one of our testimonial videos that I got hired, I said, I'm not scared anymore. I think that is a natural response, and it's something that we have to engage with and accept and understand. I think that's, that is really, really important. Let me go back so you can see my ugly face again. We'll get rid of that and go to here, because I'm just staring at that. There you go. So it is really important to be mindful of that as well. And there are symptoms that the stress is getting to you. And in my case, all of them were there. I mean, so I go back 12 years. Now, I have no idea how anyone worked with me. It must have been pretty horrendous. I was moody. My eating was weird. I ate rubbish more so than I ever had done before, and at strange times of the day. What I was putting in my body actually had no relevance to the time of the day. So that was a symptom that something was going wrong. I had problems with sleeping, hot sweats, cold sweats during the middle of the night, all those classic ones. But one of them, and I did become more insular. I recognize that now. I didn't at the time, but I think one of the things that was really key for me was I sort of got into the detail. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, so when I was talking to Minu, she would talk about just being unable to make decisions, unable to move forward. And what I did is I was great at creating really detailed PowerPoints. I spent hours creating these PowerPoints, but they never go to anyone. So I started becoming insular in myself and working in the detail. And that's something you need to be mindful of and watch out for and be careful of. If you have a Fitbit or any other kind of fitness device that you wear, keep an eye on your heartbeat. It's a fascinating indicator of the stress you may be feeling, and it's measurable. It's clear. It's there. It's a number on your wrist, and it is clear. So that's how my wife evaluated her response to stress, and then her improvement and the way that she managed it was just checking her heartbeat. What was her resting heartbeat during the day? And these devices are phenomenal. They give you huge amounts of information back. So it's just that's one way of looking at it. I think a really important starting point is acceptance. It's acceptance of your circumstances. If those circumstances are less than ideal, accepting them and realizing that you are not to blame for the circumstances you find yourself in, but you have to accept that you now need to find a job, accept that time may be short, there are financial pressures, accept those circumstances. Really, really important. But also, that's kind of the micro thing. Well, in terms of job hunting, I think one of the really, really important things is also accept the micro. So they're the macros, accept the micro elements of your life. So there's a lot of stuff on the internet at the moment about people who are depressed about not getting responses from CV submissions. Our view is just let it go. You can't control it. Being negative and depressed and irritated, stressed about it is going to make no difference. So put in place a process and a plan that enables you to manage that fact, manage the fact that people aren't going to come back on you. Just don't let it get to you. It's their problem, not yours. You set yourself, so in this case, we would say 14 days. Make an application. And if either 14 days after you make your application, if there is no closing date, if there's a closing date, 14 days after the closing date, if you have not heard back, work on the basis you're not going to and move on. If after 16, 17, 21 days you do hear back, it's kind of a bonus. So that's a good thing. So acceptance of your macro circumstances and understanding the implications of those macro circumstances. So what is your financial circumstances? What is your physical, operational circumstances? How can you job hunt? Where can you job hunt? When can you job hunt? How can you take control of that? Very, very important. But to go back to this mindfulness thing, be aware of the type of person you are too. I'm very type A. I finish other people's sentences, and we are the most likely to be impacted by stress. We find it hard to control or lose control of situations. So we become introspective and we lose our way a bit. The final message I leave you with before we close down today's coaching session is be kind to yourself and create some space in your life to be happy. It sounds like such a basic, obvious thing to do, but find space in your life to be happy. Really, really important. And plan it. Integrate it with all that planning you're doing for your job hunt. So that's the time I'm going to escape from everything and I'm going to watch Friends. That's the time I'm going to walk up and down the stairs for 10 minutes and get my heart rate up. And I'm going to do it. I know I didn't do it yesterday, but that wasn't the end of it. I'm going to do it today. And then set about that endeavor. Look for something that could be new to your life and exciting. Wish you all the very best. If you're watching on the Free for a Million channel, there's going to be a coaching session every day on that channel. We work on a 12-week cycle. So we start revisiting topics after 12 weeks. But we will also respond to comments and observations and do the things that people ask us to do. But I really hope that today has been useful. I hope that whether you're watching this live or you watch it on the recording on Free for a Million or at some point in the future in the video vault of the Job Search Accelerator program, that some of what I've said today will resonate with you and you will take action and you will set up that framework for your mental health. Remember, knowing something is just not the same as doing it. So do it. And I'll see you again tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. Cheers.